You can play your cards.
Hi, this is Tom from Millennium Blackjack. This is my first video on Blackjack that I'm doing. The reason for doing this is that we see that people, if you really want information on how to approach a Blackjack game as it is now today, there are lots of information available in the internet, but most of the information is juggled around. Some of it is completely out of date. Some of it is erroneous. And however, there are also some people who make videos and so on. Some of them are doing it out of ignorance, that maybe they don't know better, or they use the information that they have that is wrong and that they continue to spew out. Some are simply mischievous, that they know better, but however, they just continue doing this by making money through their boot camps and so on and so on. And typically, you are trained and you keep losing at the table, and you ask them, what is happening? They say, oh, what happened? Tell us what happened. And you said, oh, I was playing, I lost so much money. They say, okay, how were you playing? And when you describe how you were playing, they say, you were playing right. So don't worry, you're gonna win in the long term. What is this long term? They can't define it, or they give you ridiculous hours that you need to play. In the end, you're gonna go broke, and themselves, they get rich, because they don't play the game. They just make their money through their boot camps and so on and so on. So that's why I'm making this video. If you think such people are on the right track, this video is not for you. But if you're wondering what is the right information on how to play today's blackjack game, this is the place to be. So myself, I've been playing blackjack since 1989. So like everybody else, you read in a book, and then once you've learned some basic strategy, you go and try out. Then you go in and you win some money, and then you learn some more. You become more confident, and then somehow the game starts to, that the games are not the same. You go to study more, that, oh, there's something called card counting, maybe I need to learn that, and so on and so on. But the game that is played today, there are two main games. There's American, where they have got various games that are played, single deck, double deck, then the shoe games. And the shoe games will be played where it's hand shuffle, or is on an automatic shuffling machine. And the extreme end, you've got where the decks are put through the continuous shuffling machine. Then you've got European blackjack, which is typically 5 decks or 6 decks, and they are played either hand shuffled or played through a continuous shuffling machine. And the same thing in New Zealand and in Australia. And Macau, they also play more or less multiple deck games, and mostly on a continuous shuffling machine. They might have some with a hand shuffling machine. As you know, some of those casinos are run by American businessmen, including Wayne, who's got two large casinos in Las Vegas, Wayne and Encore, and so on and so on. At the moment, Macau has got 4 times the revenue of Las Vegas. So it has grown quite massively. Las Vegas is a very small boy compared to Macau, because the Chinese gamble just too much, and the very rise of the young Chinese businessmen there. So the first thing we must just go through the history of blackjack. Blackjack started somewhere around 17 to 1800s. We're not so sure where it started from, but we can say with confidence that it was being played in the 17 and 1800s in France and in Italy. For that reason, the very commonly used name is Fenct et Non, which is 21 by the French, which obviously then went into English and American, the game of 21, then blackjack, as we mostly commonly known these days. So when it was introduced, it was just single deck being played with very favorable rules, and the decks were being played. You play the game until all the cards are finished. Then when the dealer doesn't have any more cards, then it's only then that the cards were shuffled, and there was nothing. So obviously people have to devise methods how to try to win the game. The major change came in 1958 when Ed Canty, Will Mysell, and the other 2 so-called Scottish horsemen, when they worked out basic strategy. So in other words, that I think it's a variation of 560 hands, where it decides when to stand, when is to hit, when do you split, when do you double down, and so on and so on. So those were the basic thing, and they determined by these 4 so-called Scottish, the 4 Scottish horsemen, Ed Canty, Will Mysell. And this they presented in the first computer conference in the United States. So that's when then people started using basic strategy to use to play in blackjack. And therefore, after this, the documentation showed that the advantage of the house advantage on blackjack became very minimal. And for that reason, blackjack game becomes very popular. So that by the 60s, it was the most popular game in the casinos, with a lot of players playing, because it became known as the game of skill. And therefore, games like roulette, baccarat, slot machine were then denigrated to a game of chance, where obviously you can calculate the advantage, the house advantage of the casino in those games. Then came Professor Edward Thorp. Professor Edward Thorp, he was the professor of mathematics at MIT. So during the conference, he got hold of this paper that was written by this the 4 Scottish horsemen on basic strategy in blackjack. So he read through it. Then it came to him that himself at that time, he had IBM high computers in his department, which he could use after hours to do some research on blackjack as well. So he studied this paper very extensively. Something came to him that if indeed there is basic strategy that is working, and that he read through how they did the study, you could find, as a professor of mathematics, statistics is part of what they do. So you could realize the paper has got a very solid foundation. and therefore himself he wanted to see if maybe he can take it further. So he's studying removing low cards from the deck and see what happens, removing high cards from the deck. Then he realized that when he removes small cards from the deck, the player has got more advantage over the house, and vice versa if the tens have been removed from the deck, that the house has got more advantage over the house. And that's how then he computed this through this IBM computer during his spare time in the evening, like he describes. And then he mapped out card counting as we know it. And then he published in his book, which is the Beat the Dealer, which is a winning strategy for the game of 21. And again, 21 is fact at none, like the French will call the game. So like we see it, it's more than 1 million copies have been sold. This is the bestseller blackjack book term of all time. So seemingly when he was doing the research, Edward Thorp, there were some gamblers who were very interested when they heard what he was trying to do. So they also said, no, the one gambler, a big businessman gambler with a lot of money, more than the professor, he said, no, he's interested, he would like to invest in this investigation he's doing. For that reason, when Edward Thorp tested his strategies in Las Vegas, he also had some additional funding from this businessman. What is very interesting in when he started playing, because he had a card on basic strategy and also his additional method of card counting that he has put on a piece of paper. So both players and the casino personnel, they were really laughing at him. Look at another fool here. He's just come with some funny things here. We're gonna see how's gonna lose. So both players and casino personnel, they were mocking at him, laughing at him continuously. But the laughing stopped when they see it. As hours went on, he was accumulating more and more money than they will ever seen frequently in the casino. So that's how Professor Edward Thorp came. That's the Westgate Resort and Casino. There's so many changes. The first time I came in 2010, it was called Las Vegas Hilton, then Las Vegas Hotel, and now the Westgate. So I went there to see the Prince tribute run by Jason Turner. There are so many Prince tribute bands, but Jason Turner is probably one of the best. He's got some resemblance to Prince. He can play guitar incredibly very well and also sings quite well. And the show is probably the best Prince tribute show ever. It has got so many awards. He started at the Hooters Hotel, which is now called the Oyo Hotel. Then they went downtown to the D Las Vegas Hotel and Resort, and then came to the Westgate Resort and Casino. But the latest now, they're at the Tropicana. and I saw him perform in 2019. They're still there. I went to the Tropicana Hotel, so they're still there. You can see the route there coming is a Las Vegas monorail. So it starts here at the Sahara Hotel and then goes up to, I think, Mandela Bay. So you can see the monorail transport. Quite cute. Monorail. So it goes up and down the whole day. And we're at the Sahara Crossway.